Welcome to the Dimecast podcast. I'm Beth Duran, as always, with the man, the reason we're here, Danny Hernandez. And every single week, we bring you a new episode and we try to figure out what is going on. And by we, it's me, because I'm not a quarterback dad, but I'm learning so much about this world because I'm a sports reporter here in LA. And the more I know about this world you're in, the more educated I sound when I go talk to some of these college kids. Like, oh, yeah, man. So I know what a holdback is. I know what an NIL is. I know what a 15-step drop or whatever those things are called. But Danny, today's episode, I've always been fascinated by rankings.
Yes.
Because I don't know what they are, but I do know that at ESPN, where we do the shows about, USC got this recruiting class, UCLA got this class. They have five stars. Yet when I see them play, sometimes they don't look like a 5-star. So today's episode is for you, the QB dad and mom, who's trying to figure out, how do I get my kid rankings? How do I get my kid windows? And how do I go to these different camps? So stupid question, Danny. How do I make my kid a 5-star?
Well, the five, it's funny because I'll deal with this a lot of times, and parents will end up saying, how is so-and-so ranked higher than my kid? My kid has been a 4-year starter and he's done this and he's done that. And really, when they end up ranking someone as a 5-star, it's based on projection, right? It's based on them believing that that kid is going to end up in the NFL. So obviously there's going to be a lot of physical tools that are going to play a big part in that. It's going to be a combination of, is there an exact science to it? Probably not, but it's going to be mixed of what they're doing on their film. A lot of it's going to have to do with physical, what their physical abilities are, and when they end up evaluating them and kind of see, how they look in person.
So when does my quarterback get ranked?
So part of the rankings that'll end up happening, I believe it's their sophomore year when they'll actually give rankings to the kids. So the process kind of works this way. The kids will be in the system, right? And what system do I mean? The system is, 24/7 Sports, Rivals, On3, ESPN. They'll all have their profile set up on all those. Then there'll be a period where those guys will end up getting ranked. And that ranking will normally start off with where they'll put the top 100 overall in the entire country, not just quarterbacks, all positions. And then the next ranking period will be basically all the guys. And you obviously want to be in the system to be able to have that opportunity. And if they are going to rank them, they're going to take a look at their film, and that they're hoping that they get an opportunity to see them in person. Where do they see them in person? They're going to get a chance to see them maybe at a 7-on-7 tournament, maybe at a camp that they're at. And so now they have that in-person eval, and that's when that guy will end up allowing himself to get a little bit higher ranked.
Does it have anything to do with my actual games?
Yeah, no, the game.
Yeah, you're saying the camp and all this stuff.
And the games do matter, but the thing is, I think that parents struggle with, and I struggle with it too at times, is when you see a kid that's been so successful at the high school level, in your mind, you're thinking that should translate to a higher star rating. Yeah. But if that kid is having a ton of success and maybe he's 5'9", 165, you know what I'm saying? Like now, right, there's that checklist that we're going off of. And a big part of that checklist is the physical side on seeing if that guy's going to be able to, get onto that next level. So if he's not, guess what? As great as that kid is, as much of a baller as he is in high school, he's probably going to be more in that 2-star, maybe 3-star range.
All right. So 5 are the elite guys that are just dudes who are going to be the number 1 pick.
Yes.
Like you're Caleb Williams.
Yes.
Like those kind of guys.
Yes.
Guys that are just dudes.
Yes.
I see a lot of 3 and 4 stars.
Yes.
So how do I, as a parent, make sure my kid gets seen at the right? Do I go to camps? Is there like a rankings camp, or what is this?
Yeah, it's again, being at the right place at the right time. If you're going to a 7-on-7 tournament where there's going to be riders at, that's obviously important, because now you're going to be able to get that in-person eval. If you're going to a camp, whether it be a Rivals camp, a Under Armour one, or the Elite 11 regional, or whatever the case is, and riders again are going to be over there, and they're going to be able to give you that eval. The other thing that I try to keep kids and parents hungry, with, is those guys that are those 3 and 4 stars. Like, let's take a look at guys that are in the NFL. There's so many guys that were kind of slept on, and they kind of had that chip on their shoulder because they were just the 3-star ranked guy or whatever. Yeah. So it's like, you might be a late bloomer. You might be a guy that didn't happen to be at the right place at the right time. You didn't have as much of that buzz, but you kept grinding, kept grinding, kept grinding, and hey, there you are.
All right, I keep hearing this thing called Windows.
Yes.
What is that?
So I mean, the thing that I try to explain to a lot of the kids and parents is, throughout the entire process, you'll have different windows, right? And those windows would be, hey, I might have this window for training. I might have this particular window for taking visits, this particular window for going to camps, then your other window of, the season. If I had to break things down real quick, let's just say the season ended. So when the season ends,
So season ends November.
yeah, November, let's say it's December. Okay. Then coaches are going to end up getting on the road to now end up taking a look at those kids. Hopefully you had a good season. You had some kind of contact with some of those coaches. And then now you have that window that's going to be where these coaches are on the road and you're hoping that they come and get a chance to see you throw. That's why you'll take a look on social media and you'll kind of see in that December kind of January window, like a bunch of kids posting offers and stuff like that. Cause it's that first window that coaches are able to be on the road and able to take a look at a guy. Already watched your film. Now let me get a chance to watch you in person. Okay. So that's that first window that kind of happens. Then things go dead, meaning coaches can't go and visit. You can't go visit schools, right? It's like a dead period. Everybody, I always try to tell the guys that's a pretty good time to try to rest up. If you're a little bit banged up, your arm needs a little bit of rest, whatever it is, that's a good time because you're not going to have anybody watch you throw in person at that time. Because again, coaches can't be on the road. You can't be out over there. Then the next window that opens up is the coaches can't be on the road, but now things are open to be able to show up for like spring practices and stuff like that.
Okay.
So you'd use that window,
On
probably
your campus.
yeah, yeah.
That's why I see like a lot of the colleges are starting to post that this coach is on the road to boom.
And that's
This
that's a different window that we're in right now.
Okay.
The March window is a window when the coaches aren't on the road and they've started their spring practice. So you could go as a high school player to go to that spring practice.
Colleges.
Yeah,
Okay.
So they can't leave campus, but you could go to that.
All right. So in March, so March after you've rested,
yes,
you can go visit the university and watch them spring practice.
Watch some spring practice. Maybe you get a chance to spend some time, get all the, bells and whistles. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, you could set that up, with the guys. I mean, obviously the guys.
But it's not an official visit.
It's not an official visit.
You're just watching.
Yeah. You're watching practice. You may be able to get some time with the coaches. You may. Yeah. So you get, so now again, you try to maximize your time in that particular window, being very strategic on, hey, this is where we're going to try to visit around this time because of these reasons or whatever. Okay. And maybe you're setting the tone because you're going to end up camping with them come summer, which is another window that I'll get into right now. So that's kind of what that March and kind of April window kind of look like. Then things go open again for the coaches to be on the road. That's what you're talking about, where you probably see it on social media. Going to be visiting this area, going to be visiting that area.
They're on campus.
They're on campus. They're all over.
So right, high school coach, the athlete, and then the recruiter right there together.
Yes. So right now you have all the coaches that they're on the road right now taking a look at guys. Maybe coaches didn't get a chance to see them in that first window, in that December, January window. So they're coming now to be able to get a chance to see them right now. So right now you're seeing a lot of kids posting that they're picking up offers and everything like that. They're getting those offers because they're getting an opportunity now to meet with some of those coaches face to face. So that's what that window is. Okay. The next window, things will go dead where the coaches can't be on the road again. And now we start June. And when we're in June, that's camp season. Okay. Basically June and July is camp season. None of the coaches are going to be on the road. They're not going to visit any high schools or anything like that. That's when they're hosting camps for you to be able to go to, and I think we talked about it on a previous episode. And what you're trying to do at those is go and figure out which camps are you going to. I know we've talked about it before where, hey, let's be strategic on the places that we're going to, and you could be a little bit more wide open. The younger you are, as you get a little bit older, you probably got to narrow that down. And maybe I'm not taking 22 visits. I'm taking 2 to 3, maybe, is what you're doing. And that's basically what June and July look like, and then once that's done, we're in season now, August, and that's
okay. And all that, when do you go into like 7-on-7 and the Elite 11s and all that other stuff?
That's all going on right now. I know for like the Elite 11 workouts, there's been at least maybe 4 or 5 that have happened already. So some of those are all over the country.
So throughout all this process, you're focusing on the colleges, but you're also, it's like, so your parents basically have to be a manager, a time scheduler.
Oh yeah.
Like you could not slip. Every weekend has to be detailed.
Yeah, you got to be, very time management is huge, and all this. So you got to make sure you're doing all the right stuff. You're taking care of your body, then you get to that point where you got to be careful because then there's a lot of wear and tear, right? Yeah. You might have coach comes to visit you. You got to throw for that particular coach. And this is another area that kids got to be careful on. It's like try to be good about when these coaches are coming and visiting you. And if you could be structured and organized to the point of where, hey, we're throwing at, I don't know, 7 a.m., on campus. Now those coaches know to show up over there. So that kid now gets a throw at 7. There's been guys that I've dealt with in the past where they're not as organized. So they threw at 7, then they threw at 9, then they threw at 12. And it's like, it's too much, because coaches are coming at all these different times. And you're excited because you want that opportunity to get recruited, but that's a lot of wear and tear.
What's the most important window to you?
Geez.
I mean, they're all big.
They're all important.
But which is the one where, as a QB trainer, mentor, you're like, this is where you got to be locked in, as they say in Spanish, ponte las pilas, where you got to be so in the zone.
Yeah. I would say just probably around this time right now, to be honest with you, because it's right before you're going into that June camp season.
Okay.
So this is a good time for you to, hey, you're taking care of your body, you're getting cleaner mechanically, you're doing all these kind of things so that when you do get out there, and hopefully you're very strategic on your camp season schedule that you end up putting out, you get out there and you feel like you're the best version of yourself at that point.
What do you tell your guys when you come into these windows areas where, whether it's contacting coaches, whether it's social media, what's your advice to them at that point?
When
they're like, when you know that this is coming up, when the football season's over, how do you, because you train your guys on the field, but you also train them to be business
without a doubt, and just being prepared and understand we can't be surprised, right? We can't be in a position where it's like, hey coach, a coach showed up, but I didn't have my ball, or I didn't have my cleats, or I didn't have like something, dumb like that. It's like, how do you not know these guys are on the road right now? How are you not prepared for something like this? Have you gone over your script before? Like, do you know what you're doing, or do you just get out there and the coach is watching you throw and you're like, hey, Jimmy, give me a corner right now, from the 2, and you just kind of do that? Or do you have something that's very structured and organized and you're prepared for all that kind of stuff?
At the same time, if you're a quarterback, I've heard you tell them, make sure you bring good receivers.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you want to have some kind of chemistry, right? And this is a little bit of advice for some of the quarterbacks that are getting an opportunity to throw in front of coaches. If you're fortunate enough where these coaches are showing up to your campus and you're getting to throw for these guys, make sure that you're on the same page with your receivers. Don't put yourself in a position where you're asking your receiver to do something that's not even in your guy's playbook, and he's looking at you with the palms up kind of deal. And now it looks bad. It doesn't look organized, right? It's like, what I'm telling our quarterbacks to do is like, hey, this is a script that I'm going over. What receivers are you going to having when you end up doing this script? I want to talk to my receivers and let them know, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. We're going to go here, then we're going to go here, we're going to go here. Okay. I don't want to go too fast, but I want pep in your step. Once you finish running the dig from the 1 on this side, I'm going to need you guys to move over from the number 2 on the left side. We're going to go 15 and out after. And I want that to be a clean transition. We're doing that. Now, again, the feedback that I end up getting from these coaches, when these kids and they're picking up offers and all this good stuff, the coaches will end up saying, 2 things that I love hearing. Hey, Danny, not a single ball touched the ground. That's awesome when that happens. And then 2, man, he could run a practice on his own. He was so organized. Now, here's the other piece of advice. If you're in a position, because some of you guys go to small schools, or some of these guys are still kind of old school where they'll play multiple sports. So maybe you don't have your best receivers out there running routes. Don't just randomly have your fullback or some random guy just running routes that you have no chemistry with them on. If you got to end up putting that guy to maybe spot catch, work the top of the route, that kind of thing. And the other part that I'll end up saying, that's where it's important that when you guys do go to these sessions, you guys actually bring receivers. I know you've seen it in my social media where I'm constantly asking for
receivers are welcome to.
Like quarterbacks, like show me that you're the guy, and you could go to the session and you have at least one receiver with you.
I like when you post
one.
Hey, quarterbacks, do you have any friends?
Yeah.
Like, show me you have friends.
Like how do you show it? And it kills me. And I'll get you that, coach, I tried. Nobody wanted to come. So, well, you're not the guy then. Because you can't tell me in this day and age where everybody's running, 4 wide offense. So you got to tell me you probably have what, minimum 8 receivers in your program, minimum.
You got 100,000 followers. You can't find one receiver.
One receiver, exactly. Like, you're not the guy, dude. Step it up.
But that's also a good point, because if you're one of those receivers, look, I'm all good about attaching myself to famous people. That's why I'm here doing it. But you attach yourself, if you're a receiver and you know a guy is a 5-star, become homies with him, because if you're not getting recruited, you might get looked at a workout.
You might. And the other thing that I constantly try to tell the guys is, guys, don't get so caught up. I know you're going to have your favorite receiver, your number 1, number 2 guy that's going to be your main guy. But chances are, guess what? The defenses know that that's your number 1 and number 2 guy. why don't you use the offseason to build great chemistry with your third, fourth, fifth guy? You know what I'm saying? So now when it comes down to that game, hey man, look, think about all those workouts that we had throughout the offseason in the summer. We built chemistry right there.
The windows are huge.
The windows are huge. Take advantage of them. Don't waste time during these windows.
All right. Now back to the original start in the beginning. How do I get into the rankings? Like, how do I move up in the rankings?
So in the moving up of the rankings, again, as I mentioned before, is there an exact science to it? Maybe not. There's going to be some frustrating moments that kids, parents, myself, we're going to end up having. There's sometimes I'll take a look at what these rankings end up coming out, and I'm just like, what are they looking at? You know, it's like, and if I got the guys from 24/7 Sports or whatever it is, like they've heard it from me directly from me. Like, what are you guys looking at? You know, and you have those situations where it happens, but again, they're looking at, well, you know what, this guy really projects, you know, at the next level because, you know, yeah, it's a little bit of a guessing game, and you're hoping you have enough there, you know, to now when you make that guess, you know, you have enough there to kind of back that up a little bit.
And it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Because you saw the Tom Brady roast.
Yeah,
got paid millions to do that roast. He got paid, and he's a producer on it. But another guy who, if you look at his intangibles when he was in high school, he was like I mean, Michigan's still a big time school.
Yes,
but he went there as a backup.
Yes,
he wasn't a 5-star, right? I mentioned Josh Allen earlier, JUCO guy, a smaller school. The projections, that's what everybody's looking at.
And what's funny is you bring up Tom Brady. Totally random. I had a workout one time, and it was at an indoor facility where there were a bunch of volleyball games going on. I have Willie McGinnis come up to me as I'm in my session, and he says, "Hey, I want to introduce myself." Right when I see him, I'm like, "I know who you are, dude." Okay, so it's like, you're Willie McGinnis. Okay, so Willie comes up, and he has an older gentleman on the side with him. He's like, "Hey, I wanted to." Right when I see, they have the same face. Okay, it's like it's Tom Brady's dad. And he's like, "Hey, he's here watching his granddaughters do some volleyball. You know, can he sit down and kind of watch some of the training that you're doing?" And I was like, this is like QB dad royalty right here, man. I've never told you the story. Okay. So this was just really cool. So he ends up
isolate this camera, right? Just look at that camera, bro.
Little zoom in here. Okay. So
just look at the camera.
Out of here. What was really cool in that, and again, I deal with QB dads a ton, right? And it was refreshing to hear the stuff that he was talking about, right? Refers to him as Tommy. And he's like, the great part about Tommy that ended up putting him in a position to really give him that chip on his shoulders, he didn't have all this publicity and all this stuff that a lot of the guys have right now. You know, you'll hear Saban and these guys rat poison, right? You know, kind of call that. So he was in a position where he just had to keep on grinding, keep on grinding, keep on grinding. There was nobody saying how he was the next latest and greatest and, you know, the best guy. That's why I try to tell these guys, again, when we go back on these rankings, sometimes I don't want my kid at an early age to get that 5-star ranking too soon, right? Because then you feel like, oh, I've arrived. You know, I'm good. I have it all figured out. No, you don't. I'd rather have that kid have that 2-star and be chipping away for that 3, chipping away for that 4. And if we eventually get to that 5, great. But if we don't, it's okay. You know, on that too. But what I loved, what Mr. Brady, you know, was just talking about was just how he just, you know, he was process driven. He made the main thing. And all he had to do was grind, and he didn't have all these different publications talking about how he was the next latest and greatest, and that was good for him. It was just cool. There were a bunch of other things that ended up happening in that. I mean, he stood with me for 2 hours, you know, or right there, and I'm literally side by side with him. I'm training the guys, and I'm talking to him, and I'm just like, "Hey, man, you've been to a ton of sessions throughout the years, you know." It's like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Am I doing it right? You know, he's like, "You're doing it right, Dad. You're doing." I was like, "Thank you, man." It was really cool. It was a random moment that ended up happening that I haven't really shared that story with anybody. So it was kind of cool.
Wow. And on that note, 5-star, Dane Hernandez. He started off as a 0-star.
0-star.
Now he's a 5-star trainer. Wow. See, this is why I love doing the podcast, because you never know where it's going to go. We educate you, but we also tell the stories. And I'm just like you, the viewer. I'm just watching and enjoying this, man. Cool. All right. Social media is?
Danny H131 on Instagram and Coach Danny 10 on Twitter.
All right. Normally, we try to bring in a random QB you've worked with. You know, shout out to all the guys we've thrown out there in the past. But we don't have to do that today because Tom Brady's dad.
Tom Brady's dad. There you go.
Another edition of the Dimecast podcast.